This is our tutorial for your Beginning AutoCAD Workbook, Chapter 4. So our Chapter 4 learning objectives are to understand Object Snap, use Running Object Snap, use the Zoom options to view our drawing, change the drawing limits, and select the units of measurements and precision. So the first thing that we're going to look at is our Object Snap menu. So down in your status bar along the bottom, we've already been using Object Snap or OSnap. And we said just as you're working to turn it on and off, you can go down there and click, or you can just hit F3 to turn it off or on. We've used a few of the Object Snaps so far. But in this lesson, we're going to take a look at a couple of different ones that we haven't used yet. So we have used endpoint. Some people so far have used midpoint. So I'm just going to go over them with you. We're not going to do them all, but we'll do some of them. Okay, so right now, oh, I'm sorry. I have my 3D stuff turned on too. So right now I just have endpoint and midpoint turned on. I'm going to turn on circle, and I'm going to turn on quadrant, and I'm going to turn on geometric center. There. I'm going to leave that one off for now. Okay, so line, we've already done the endpoint ones. Midpoint is exactly what it sounds like. So you're drawing a line. I'm just going to turn my F8 off. And I want a line in the middle of that one. So that little triangle symbol indicates that your midpoint snap is on. This time I want to do center. So for center I have to have a circle or a radius. And to get the center mark to show up, I have to come somewhere near my circle to get it to show up. We have quadrant. So what quadrant does is it will select the 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock positions on your circle. The other one that we have, I'm going to turn these ones off, and I'm going to turn on geometric center. So with geometric center, geometric center won't find the center of a circle, but it will find the center of a polygon of some sort. So if you had a rectangle, a triangle, anything that's closed geometry, it'll find the center point of you. Nearest. What nearest does is it'll just select that line for me, and I can draw a line at any point along the one I want it to touch. Now, as you're working along, you're probably not going to want to be going down like that all the time and changing things. To help you save time, as you're working, if I decided, right now I just have endpoint turned on, if I decided I wanted midpoint on, I can push shift, so hold shift down and right click my mouse key, and I'll pick midpoint. So shift, midpoint, and just for this one line, I now have midpoint turned on. So it's not going to be there the next time I go to draw another line. if I wanted it just for a few lines, I'd just use Shift and right click to pick the ones that I want as I go along. So lesson number 5, they go through more of the OSNAP settings. So we'll look at some of those in lesson number 5. The next thing that they talk about in chapter number 4 is zoom. So we all know you can roll your mouse wheel in or out to zoom. In lesson day 1, we set up the M button pan feature on our mouse to a value of 1, so that if we double click our mouse wheel quickly, it'll center our drawing for us. But there's also a bunch of other zoom functions. So to get to zoom, you could type Z on your keyboard. Mine's hung up here for a second. And then select one of these options. So I could click window and say I want to zoom in here. Or if I don't want to do that, we have a little floating toolbar over on the side. We could click zoom selections in here as well. So depending on what type of a zoom feature you want, usually zoom window or pan and rolling your mouse wheel in and out. Those are the ones that you're going to use most, along with double clicking your mouse wheel. The next thing that they talk about is drawing setup. So there's 2 things included in drawing setup. There's a drawing limits and then our units and precision. So when we talk about drawing limits, what we're really talking about, AutoCAD screen itself is just an endless space. It just goes on forever. We could keep going to the right as far as we wanted right now. What drawing limits do is they kind of define a sheet of paper for us. So let's go in, let's type in limits right on our command line. And then it's going to say specify your lower corner. So generally, good habit is to make 0, 0 your lower corner. And then it says to specify your upper right corner. So right now, it's set to be 8.5 by 11, which is just a regular standard sheet size. Instead, let's type in 36, so that's 36 units over on the X horizontally, and 24, that's 24 units up vertically on the Y-axis, and hit enter. So you really don't see anything happen. But if we went in and selected zoom all, what that does, it says, okay, this is the area you defined to work within. So let's take a look at how that affects when we have grid turned on. Let's look at our grid settings. So we can have our grid within our drawing limits, or we can have our grid go beyond our drawing limits. So to get into this, what we type in is DS on our command line, which stands for drafting settings, and this new dialog box will open up. In the bottom right corner, we have grid behavior. So we have display grid beyond limits, or we can turn it off. So if I turn it off, right now, those are my drawing limits. That's 0.00 to 0.36, 24. And as you saw, if I turned it on, display beyond limits, it fills my whole screen regardless of which area I'm working in. Sorry, I'm just moving that over so that it's actually sitting on the 0, 0 mark for us. And the last thing that they go over in chapter number 4 is how to set up your units and precision. So when you're typing in measurements and things, later on we'll change it for putting actual dimensions on your drawing, but this is more about how you're entering information. So we're going to type in units. And our new dialog box will open, drawing units. So here we can select architectural, decimal, engineering, whichever one it is that we want. We're going to stick, unless it asks us to change it in something, we're going to stick with decimal for now. Precision as well. We have all these different ones. So these are our decimal precisions. If we had architectural selected, we would have architectural dimensions showing up. So for now, we're just going to leave these alone unless it asks us to change something in an exercise. We're just going to leave them on decimal and the 3 decimal places. We're going to leave the rest of it alone for now. So when you get into the exercises, exercise 4A is going to ask you to change your units and your precision. So remember, to get to that, just type units on your keyboard. 4B and 4C, you change your units and precision as well, and you change your drawing limits. Exercise 4D, again, you change your precision and your limits, and you're going to use a midpoint snap. There's one more snap that you need to do exercise 4E, and actually you'll use this one quite a bit as well. So I'm going to draw a line here and a line here, and I'm going to draw another, point there and point there, and another line that just crosses it. So if I wanted to make a line at this point, if I go into Object Snap and select intersection, not insertion, but intersection, then it'll find the actual intersection of 2 lines for us. So you'll need that for 4E. For F, you're going to use quadrant. Oh, and another one called tangent. So we already looked at quadrant. It's the 12, 3, 6 o'clocks. Tangent, the way the tangent works is, let's draw a couple of circles for some different things. So I'm going to turn on tangent. Tangent will find a point along your circle, and the equal tangent, another tangent point for another circle. So see how it absolutely connects right on the tangents of them? So you'll be using that in exercise 4F. 4G is midpoint. So those are most of the object snaps. There's a couple that we'll learn in lesson 5, 3 more of them. But for now, that'll get you through lesson number 4.